Before we begin, subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell to be alerted to all my new videos on building a sustainable and fulfilling career, as well as sign up for my free newsletter where I include higher detail articles, link in the description. At some point, you're going to be hit with a decision where an opportunity is going to come your way, and you're going to ask yourself if you should take it or not. There's no hard rule for everyone to abide by, and where some gigs people will say no, others will say yes. Circumstances that we are all coming from will be different. The biggest factors are how financially stable are you, how many hours can you devote to it, and how experienced are you. The biggest thing that traps us into bad gigs are usually our finances, and if you're in game audio, well, almost every single person has multiple sources of income, and the balance between which provides more income and how much time each job takes also affects this. People who are less experienced are typically hungrier for any opportunity they get, but I cover in more depth in my video on freelancing mistakes to avoid... Did I make that? I don't know if I made the video. Shit. But besides the painful mistakes, let's look into when an opportunity might or might not be worth taking on. For starters, I suck at saying no. I do too many things. I spread myself way too thin. I've spent years and years hustling and busting my ass, and then there comes a point where I'm at my limit. I can't do more than I'm already doing. By pushing myself to the limit of what I can do, I've learned some lessons the hard way, and that is something must give. Through my experiences, I'm now a lot quicker and more liberal with my no's, and the more I do, the more lessons I learn the hard way. So let's save you all some time and trouble that I've gone through by hitting the brink of my bandwidth. You and I are going to walk through the process together and see whether this experience is worth your time or if you need to walk away. We're going through a series of checkpoints. So the first checkpoint is this paid? Time is money. We need to know if this opportunity will compensate us or not. Me personally, I don't take on projects that don't pay me at all. Now, depending on where you are, you might be tempted to take on anything just to get your name on it, but if you're doing that, at least make sure that you're doing a rev share. Also, if you just want your name on a game just to get credits, do game jams. So, are they paying you? A no for me is a deal breaker and I walk. But if it's not a deal breaker for you, at least make sure that you're getting some revenue share out of this and make sure that's in a contract. So let's say that they're paying you. Second checkpoint, is it paying you enough? I've seen a lot of projects listed as paid, but how much are we talking? Up front, this checkpoint is going to be where a lot of you are going to falter, because what is enough? Ask your clients questions. The more you know, the easier it will be to get a better idea how much work it will be. In my experience, just asking devs how many minutes of music, you won't get an accurate answer. If you're feeling bold, ask what their budget is. It will give you a better idea of how much funding you can ballpark around. You are allowed to, and oftentimes should, ask more than what their budget already is. Weighing against how much labor it will be, ask yourself how low are you willing to go, and then how much would you actually like it to make. Too many people I know are in gigs where they're getting paid, but when they do the math of how much they're working, they realize how little the compensation actually is. If they can't meet you on your upfront costs, you might be able to get a rev share deal to make up for it. But if the upfront is too low for you, then walk. Sometimes, if I'm not interested enough, I'll just push the number so high that I make the client say no for me. Likewise, if through asking questions the client seems particularly difficult and unfun to work with, I give them the old asshole tax. Straight up, it's just making your rate more expensive to compensate for the added difficulty of working for them. And you want to make sure that you ask enough that it makes it worth your time. So if they say yes, you're happy, and if they say no, you dodge a bullet. Third checkpoint. How much time do you have to do this project? Ask questions about their timeline, their projected date, when they want to be asset complete, and when they want an MVP by. An MVP being a minimal viable product or the most bare bones launchable state. Asking these questions will give you a rough sense of when your personal timeline will look like, though usually they'll hit delays and you'll have more time. I personally do not crunch ever, and I refuse to. I have already burned out in a previous career, it was horribly painful, and I won't do it again. I have said no to really cool projects because they were way too aggressive with the timeline for what I was working with. Part of me still kind of regrets it because of how cool the possible project was, but I think in the end it was worth it for me. I have other friends who are a lot more willing to do a lot of work and not a lot of time for various reasons, but if it's a rush job, I will be charging accordingly. Maybe the clients can give more time, maybe they can meet you with a rush job pay. But if not, then ask yourself if the financial gain from the crunch will make or break you. Fourth checkpoint. What is special about this project? So you're at the fourth checkpoint. You're asking yourself if you should say no because there's something in your gut that feels off, and usually you should trust your gut. But say you've passed the other checkpoints. Maybe the timeline is really tight, maybe the pay isn't great, but why are you still considering it? And this is where you ask yourself, why are you still considering it? There must be something really special about it. I know some people who've pushed through these checkpoints because the IP was that good. But if your project isn't special and there are still these caveats, is it actually worth it, or are you just making excuses? Fifth checkpoint, do you have the bandwidth for it? Sometimes everything is good. Everything about the project can be good, but it can just be the wrong time. At a time like this, I might try and see if I can split the work with other friends. But unfortunately, as a freelancer, we go through periods of feast and famine. And if we're already in a period of feast, having more projects on your plate doesn't actually do you better. If you're at capacity but you feel like you need the money, that's a sign that you need to raise your rates. Maybe if the potential credit on the project can be very promising but you're sacrificing your personal wellness for it, is it worth it? That's up for you to determine. Sixth checkpoint, do you want to do it? This might seem like a ridiculous question to ask. We've gotten this far, the answer should be obvious. Or is it? Because a lot of us push ourselves too hard. That hustle and grind is ruthless at times. But to be perfectly honest, it's self-imposed a lot of the time. I'm going to tell you right now, 9 out of 10 times, you should trust your gut. If your gut thinks something is a bad idea, but then in your head you start to rationalize all of these things and questioning, well, maybe it is worth it because of this and that, my go-to instinct is that the gut is right, and the head is just making excuses. I've done some deals that were subpar, but maybe at the end it felt more right than wrong. Something can be imperfect and still be worth it, but trust your gut, because too often we dive past the checkpoints and go for it, and we realize after the fact, it wasn't worth it. We should have said no. This video is a cautionary tale, and regardless, we still might fall for things from time to time. It's not always games. I've committed to things that I realized weren't particularly worth my time. But we live and learn. That said, we can learn from others' experiences and not fall for the same mistakes. You need to be cognizant that your desperation is a trap and is the root problem of why you fell into a regretful commitment. Remember, gang, if you say yes to bad gigs, you can't say yes to good gigs. And if you say yes to good gigs, you can't say yes to great gigs. I've built myself up to be in a position where I'm allowed to be choosy. Some of my circumstances are because of luck, but I attribute a lot of my growth to being a lot more careful about what gigs I'm willing to take and not wasting my time on hunting gigs that I don't actually want or need. And a lot of this was learning by doing. Opportunities feel scarce and you'll be tempted to take on every chance you get. But I've done a lot of jams and a lot of networking, and over time you'll build yourself a rapport with people and a standing in a community. And after a few contracts, you'll want to be on the lookout for bigger opportunities. So don't bog yourself down with commitments that aren't worth your time because they'll prevent you from scoring big wins. And once you have a really great gig, your quality of life will improve significantly. You'll have a much better idea of the things to look out for in future prospective clients and the things to say no to. If you find yourself in a draining circumstance where the gig that you're currently working on isn't worth it, make sure in your contracts you have a kill switch. It allows you to bail on really bad jobs that aren't worth your time and are eating away at your energy. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe for more videos on building your career, as well as sign up for my newsletter where I talk about things in higher detail. Also, I read every comment and email, so if you have any questions or have any suggestions on topics you want me to cover, feel free to comment below. Thanks again, till next time, and good luck out there.